Welcome to the From the Back Tees podcast. I'm Zach Pencer, as you guys know. We got my guy Nolan here. We got our other guy Reid coming off a nice little finish last week. And Reid, I know you brought us another special guest. I'll give you the honors.
Zach, very special. Not only a friend of mine, but a family friend of mine that has helped me through my golfing career at times and played a really big role in it. Jake, how we doing? Jake Kurtzen, a former scout for the Tampa Bay Lightning and many other hockey organizations.
Well, not too many, Reid. I didn't bounce around too much.
Well, I mean, the major, yes, Seattle. You went up to the ranks, but yeah, you were with Tampa mainly. I know that. I love that.
I started my junior career up in British Columbia, and I moved to Seattle. And I worked for the Breakers and the Thunderbirds. And from there, I went to Tampa. So I was very fortunate. I was able to hang on to my jobs for quite a while and always move up until I finally got fired.
Where did you start in British Columbia?
Fort St. John.
Okay, nice.
Okay. And my background certainly isn't a hockey background. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Mennonites, but anyway, I'm a Mennonite. And we moved to northern British Columbia when I was 10. So the only ice we saw was in the winter when there was dugouts, okay? And we cleared the snow off the dugouts, and we built our own hockey sticks. Finally, one Christmas, Mother Santa Claus brought us some hockey sticks. So there was 6 brothers, and we went out and we played some shinny, and it got a little rough, and there was some bloodletting. And so we came back to the house, and Mother says, well, if that's how you guys are going to behave, chop up your hockey sticks. So basically, that was the end of my hockey career. Okay. Wow. We had one newspaper, one weekly newspaper, and that's how I became a hockey fan. I was a Chicago Blackhawks fan growing up, Bobby Hull and Phil Esposito and the like. And for some reason, hockey just stuck in me. Okay, I had no idea why. Hardly played it. When I left the farm, I moved to Fort St. John, and there was many stops in between different jobs. However, I ended up owning a trucking company when I was 27, 28. And the only sponsorship I had was I sponsored a fastball team. And that was the only advertising I did. I sponsored a fastball team, and I sponsored a hockey team in the beer league. All right. And the only reason I even got a shift on the hockey team was because I was the owner.
You paid your way in.
I paid my way in. I was glued to the bench.
You're like the coach's son, except you're like the owner who wants to step in there.
Exactly. So anyway, one day we had a little baseball meeting or a fastball meeting at my place, and the coach of the junior team came by. He was also the coach of another fastball team, and he goes, we could use some help, with the hockey team. And I said, well, I'd really like to help. I don't know a lot about hockey, but I can, whatever you want me to do, I'll do it. So he says, well, we were looking for a bus driver. So the next day I went and picked up the old yellow school bus, cleaned it up, and that was the start of my hockey career. That's how it started. And I ended up as the chief scout of the Tampa Bay Lightning with a Stanley Cup ring.
That is crazy.
So
pretty amazing, huh?
Yeah, it's unprecedented, really.
Jake, when you first met my parents, you obviously knew my parents long before I was born.
Yep.
What position were you in? Were you scouting at that time? You were a bus driver, weren't you?
When I got to Seattle, I had worked my way up in Fort St. John to where I started as bus driver, then I became the manager, and then I became the general manager, and then I set up an affiliation with Seattle. I ended up in Seattle as a bus driver. Okay.
Yeah.
I had sold my business, and the coach of the Seattle Breakers called me because we had, pardon me?
Hitchcock?
No, it was Monty Miron. And he called me and he goes, we had just finished a training camp in Vancouver, and joint training camp, and I brought a few players back to Fort St. John. And he said, Jake, do you know of anybody that wants to be a trainer? And I said, yeah, I do. I'll take the job. And he goes, really? Okay. Because, I had my own business and I was the general manager. So why would anybody go do laundry for a junior team? Okay. But I knew if I ever wanted to go anywhere, I had to take the first opportunity. So I ended up, I told him, he said, I'll call you back. I've got to think about this. So he called me back and he says, I have 3 questions. Do you know how to sharpen skates? And I go, yes, I do. I was a millwright in one of my other jobs, and I knew equipment, and I had sharpened a couple pair of skates. Okay, so I wasn't lying.
Weren't lying yet.
No. And then he said, what about taping? Can you tape? Have you ever taped anybody? Any injuries? And I didn't lie and I didn't answer. I just said, how difficult can it be to tape?
Fair answer.
Fair answer. And then he says, most important of all, do you know how to drive the bus? And I go, yeah, I'm in. Because I had talked my way into driving the Greyhound bus that we chartered. After my stint as a school bus driver, we started chartering a Greyhound. And at night, when everybody was asleep, I'd slide behind the wheel and I'd learn how to drive the wheel. Okay. So anyway, there I was. I said, give me a couple of days. I did not ask about a visa. I did not ask how much they paid. I didn't want to scare him off. Okay. I just shut up. And I said, I'll need a couple of days to get down there. So anyway, I got down there and I took a look at the skate machine and it was all rusted up. And I told the coach, I said, you know what, we're going to have to get the skate sharpened somewhere else until I get this machine straightened out. So at night, everybody was in bed. I'd go back to the skate machine. I'd get it all shined up and I'd practice sharpening skates on my own skates. All right. I bought a book on taping. Okay. A, B, C. Okay. That's the ankle. So after a couple of days, I said, okay, boys, I'm ready to sharpen skates. So, and by now the guys knew that I didn't know anything, right? You can only fool them for so long. And it didn't take very long. They figured out I didn't know anything. However, I didn't take advantage of that. I didn't bully them around or pretend that I did, So anyway, sore ankle would come in and I'd go in the back room. I'd look at my book and I'd say, okay, A, B, C. I'd come back out, tape it up, go. All right. Sharpen the skates. They worked. They bitched a little bit, but I got better at it. And then training camp was in Lake Couch, and so then I had to rustle up the bus, and it was a beater. Like, it was a bad bus. And so here I was driving into Seattle with a bunch of rookies who had never been to Seattle. I had been to Seattle, but never driven on the freeway with a bus. And so I wheeled her into Seattle, and that's I was there for 13 years, and I worked my way up the next step was the scouting wasn't being looked after. So I had a meeting with the owner, with John Hamilton. I don't know, Reed, did you ever meet John Hamilton?
No, I know the name though. Never met him.
Okay. Anyway, we were having a few pops, and I said, you know what, our scouting is really, it's really falling off. We basically had no scouts. So I said, I'd like to take over the scouting as well. He goes, do whatever you want. Okay. So
Just like that.
the next morning, before he could change his mind and he sobered up, I went in the next morning and I moved my desk from the locker room into the main office, created an office for myself, created a position, director of player personnel. And now I was head trainer and director of player personnel. All right.
Wow.
Did you feel like at all overwhelmed with this, or you were like, yeah, I'm ready for this?
No, I'm just going. Like, I didn't even think of the consequences.
Man, you
No,
go with the
Jake,
flow.
This is
No, if you were to know Jake, something may, how do I word this? Something may challenge him, but nothing ever phases him.
Yeah.
That's
He's
how I've always said.
unflappable.
well, it doesn't get me off track, Like I mean, I'm one step ahead of the other, kind of guy. Okay, and I don't spend a lot, and you may realize it today. I don't spend a lot of time in the past because my facts and stuff are a little bit jumbo. I know the basics, but as far as who scored the winning goal on our Stanley Cup winning, I don't know, and you know what, I really don't care. Okay. We're already moving on because there's another season coming up, and what are we going to do? And so anyway, I ended up the director of player personnel. Eventually, somebody else took over as a trainer. I ended up as general manager, and because the owner had to have some surgery, and so I ended up and we had no money. We had zip. We had nothing. Okay, our office was shut down. And he says, well, Jake, you can take over. So I said, okay, I took over. We had no phones. I had a lady that was in a wheelchair. She was my right-hand lady. She answered the phone. And she was a huge hockey fan. She was the president of the Booster Club. And we had no phone. The bills weren't paid. I had a bunch of, there was a bank of phones. What do you call them? The phones we used to have.
The ones where you have to do the.
Yeah. Anyway, the janitors, those were the only phones I had. And here I was, general manager. And so the janitors would answer the phone. They go, Jake.
What year was this, Jake?
Huh?
What year was this?
This would have been like in about 85.
Okay.
And so the janitors would answer the phone and they go, Jake, Bill LaForge from the Kamloops Blazers. Okay, I'll be right there. So I made a few deals. I called the star player, Alan Kerr. He went on, got drafted by the Islanders, and good player. And he calls me and he goes, Jake, I'm not coming back. You guys are too unorganized. And I go, Alan, it's going to be different. Okay, I'm going to hire a new coach. And he goes, Jake, you always say that. So, but he ended up coming back. I hired Luke Boileau, or not Luke, but I hired Mark Boileau to coach. He used to play for the Seattle Totems, and he was an NHL coach, and he was a Quebec Nordique coach. He came in, and we turned things around a bit. And then the owner decided it was starting to look pretty good, so he decided that he was going to take over again as general manager. Okay, so I said, okay. He says, yeah, I think it's time you went and did some scouting. so I left, and I hit the road. And during this time, of course, I was charged of billets and things like that, and that's probably when I would have met your parents, Reed. Okay.
Right.
Okay. And, you have to look after schooling, you have to look after billets, and you have to look after, a whole bunch bunch of things. And my dream was always that somebody would see the potential in the Seattle franchise and, infuse some money, come along with some money and make it a viable thing. So the dream came true. And Earl Hale from Calgary bought it, Earl.
Yeah.
And he did a good job.
Now they're about to have an NHL team up there.
Yep. It's right around the corner.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Earl bought the team. He did well. Got it off to a good start. And then the next owners came in and they really went big. We played in the Coliseum. We played in front of 15,000 or 18,000.
Back at the Breakers years, yeah.
Pardon me?
Back at the Breaker years, yeah.
No, then we were already Thunderbirds. Earl changed the name to the Thunderbirds. Okay.
So Earl was responsible for that. I didn't know that.
Yes, he was.
Oh.
Yeah. And then the new ownership took over, and they spent a ton of cash. They were used to rebuilding minor league baseball teams, and so they had like 13 teams at one point. And so this was another project of theirs. And we finally got some offices. We finally, our reputation improved. We were able to recruit players. And one day the owner came in and said, "Jake, we need a farm team. So here's the check. We'll get us a farm team." So I went and got a farm team. Drove up to Canada. It only took me 10 minutes and I had it bought. Okay. The guy was surprised. Shut the shit out of him, He thought this was going to be a long, drawn-out negotiation. I said, "How much do you want?" And he said, $50,000. And I said, "Here's the check." "Okay, thank you. Bye." For lunch, and that was it. And so now I'm the chief scout, and I'm also running the farm team. Pat Smith was our coach. He was doing a good job. And then I get a call out of the blue from a guy that we'd had our battles in the Western Hockey League. His name was John Chapman, and he was he was general manager of the Lethbridge Hurricanes, and we'd had some battles. Ken Danico played for us. I drafted him in the expansion draft from the Spokane Chiefs. Danico went on to play 20 years in the National Hockey League. He's a real player. Anyway, Chappie got a hold of Danico somehow over the Christmas break, and he goes, "Don't go back to Seattle. We'll make a deal for you." And I put my foot down, and Danico calls me. He says, "Jake, I'm not coming back." And I go, "You're not going anywhere, Dano. You're coming back to Seattle." And I knew he loved hockey too much. He wasn't going to sit out. So he came back, and, Chappie and I had a few words. And anyway, a few years later, Chappie calls me. He goes, "Jake, do you want to do some scouting for the Tampa Bay Lightning?" I go, "Yeah." He says, I need a part-time guy on the West Coast. He says, "Can we meet in Vancouver?" I says, "Yeah." So we met. He goes, "I need you to send me some reports once a week or so. I'll pay you $10,000. What do you think?" I said, "Yep." Okay, so now I was the chief scout for the Thunderbirds, ran the farm team, and I was scouting for the Lightning expansion team. Okay.
It's a lot to juggle.
Yeah, it was. I had quite a phone bill, and I had one of those bat phones. Okay, they were about this big. Right? So I'd be driving down I-5, and that phone would be just burning up. And then one day, the team wasn't doing that great, the Thunderbirds. So we had Russ Williams. He was the president, and he was the hands-on president. And I was always the first guy in the office. He was second guy in. Okay. So he walks in one morning, and he goes, "Jacob, what's wrong with our power play?" I go, "Russ, I don't coach the team." Okay. "Well," he goes, "that Lonnie Bahanas guy that you brought in, yeah, well, he's horseshit. We spent a lot of money on that guy. We flew him in here, and you said he was a good player. I go, Russ, sometimes things don't pan out. He goes, well, I want you to make up your mind what you want to be. You can't serve two masters. You're either going to be a Tampa Bay Lightning guy or you're going to be a Seattle Thunderbird. And he thought he had me by the short ones, because they were paying me good money. I had a good expense account, and I had nothing to complain about. And anyway, he says, tomorrow morning, I want to know what your decision is. We're going to play golf at the Classic. And on the 9th tee box, or the 9th green, I want you to give me an answer.
Wow, he really laid it out for you.
Yeah, he did. So I said, okay, no problem. I went home. I thought about it. And I knew he wouldn't wait, until we got to the golf course. So I went into the office that morning. And he goes, well, what are you going to do? I said, Russ, if that's what you want, I'm going to pack her up and I'm going to leave. He stuttered a little bit, okay? So he stuttered a lot after I told him that. And then he goes, are we still going to play golf? I go, damn right. So we went and played golf. The guys are foursome. They had no idea what was going on. We played with the assistant general manager, Danny Sayak, and the director of marketing. They had no idea that was my last golf game with the Thunderbird.
Wow,
So,
just like that.
Just like that. So that night, I went to the office, shed a few tears, cleared up my office, and I moved on. I had no job, okay? Like part-time with Tampa Bay, it doesn't do much, okay? They didn't even really know, like Chappie knew who I was, but the rest of the guys didn't even know who I was. They had no idea. So anyway, I was basically unemployed. I had a payment on a new condo, and I had no car because I had a company car. Okay, so I thought, well, okay. Anyway, couple months go down. I touched base with Tampa, told them what was going on, and they didn't really care. And it was in the middle of the season. I knew they weren't going to, make any changes or whatever. And so I kept going to games, just kind of financed my own way. Went to games, and then the same Chapman that hired me, didn't get along with Tony Esposito, who was in charge of the scouting. Okay, and so Chappie moved on to the Florida Panthers. So Tony calls me one day out of the blue, and he goes, Jake, we're going to give you the job. He's a man of few words. He goes, Jake, we're going to give you the job. I go, thank you. And he goes, you know how we like things done? The most important thing is to fit in. I'll send you a contract in the mail. And that was the end of the interview. Okay.
Wow. Just like that.
So I became a Tampa Bay Lightning full-time employee. All right. So it went on and on and on. Are you guys getting bored?
Where was that, Jake?
Huh?
What year was that?
That would have been in the early 90s. Okay. I don't know exactly when. So then anyway, then I stayed in Seattle, and then I worked the West Coast. I have to tell you a funny little story though. So we're the other Western Scout and we're going to go up to Alaska. We're going to scout a hockey game. Okay, and I've never told anybody this. Okay, besides him, or nobody in hockey for sure. And so anyway, I'm going to book the flights up to Anchorage, right? So, and this is how well prepared I was. I booked a flight to Fairbanks. So we end up in Fairbanks, okay? The wrong city, 5 hours apart, 6 hours apart. So we had to scramble like a son of a bitch to get another ticket and then go to Anchorage and then watch the games there, okay? So that was the first lesson that I learned, like double
flying
check.
in the same day as the game.
Yeah. So double check where you're going. All right. Anyway, I ended up scouting and staying. The very first meeting we had in Montreal, the expansion meeting, we were sitting around the round table, and Phil Esposito was our general manager, and Don and Tony was there. Both Hall of Famers. Terry Crisp was our coach. Wayne Cashman was our assistant coach. Donnie Murdoch was our director of scouting by then, and so we got a star-studded cast. Okay, so Phil, the guys would come in, and I forget who the big stars were that year. Anyway, Phil came in, and we'd have the guys come in one by one, the guys we were interviewing, and Phil would go around the table. And he'd go, this is Wayne Cashman, this is Terry Crisp, Hall of Famer, my brother, Hall of Fame goalie, led the league in shutouts as a rookie, and, all this kind of stuff. He got to me and he jumped right over. He didn't even know my name. And I'm going, okay, this is going to be a long ride, so just do your best. And I did. I sharpened pencil. I watched what Tony was doing. And Tony likes things neat. Okay. Tony doesn't say much, but he likes things neat. So he would be straightening out pencils and cleaning up pop cans. So all I did was sharpen pencils, answer the phone if the phone rang, and I kept my mouth shut. Okay. Because Tony made it very, very clear that he really had no respect for people in hockey that hadn't played the game. He just thought it was way too difficult for somebody to step into the situation, making hockey decisions, and never having played the game.
Okay. So how did you feel like you kind of acquired that eye for the game, not playing a ton yourself?
Yeah, I think that made me even a better scout. Okay, because I wasn't comparing myself to the player. A lot of, that happens a lot when you get players scouting the game. They compare the player to themselves. Okay,
I think that's a problem.
I didn't. Pardon me?
The problem with coaches too, how they're always former players, or you think it translates better there?
No, actually, I think you'll find that the better coaches weren't the best players.
That's what I've been preaching. Nobody listens to me.
Yeah. Like John Tortorella was not a good player. But
Yeah.
he was a hard-ass player.
And Jake knows Torts very well.
And Wayne Gretzky wasn't the best coach.
Pardon me?
Wayne Gretzky, I don't think will go down as one of the better coaches.
No, and it's not because Wayne didn't try. It's just that it's, it would be very difficult to be the best player in the world and then to put up with a 17 or 18 or 19-year-old rookie coming in. That is just, mess. And he's going, holy shit, what have we got here?
Right.
So anyway, eventually I worked my way into being the chief scout. And another little golf story. We would play golf. We would play quite a bit of golf in our meetings and stuff. And the guys were a good player. Wayne Cashman was a very good player. Phil is a very good player. Tony hates the game. He thought we were all crazy. He thought we were stupid, that we chased a little white ball. And he refused to even think about playing golf. Okay. And Murdoch, my boss, and so we were playing one day, and I was having a shitty round because I didn't start playing until I was 30, and I had the worst golf swing in the history of the world. Okay, it was really, really bad. And so we were playing one day, and he goes, "Jake, listen, I am never playing with you again until you improve your game." So there I was. I better get to work, if I wanted to play golf with the guys. So anyway, I did.
So and you're pretty good at golf then, or?
I'm 11 handicap now.
That's solid.
And so I make some really, really good tour shots, and then I go brain dead.
Yeah, sometimes the switch just turns off and you're like, what just happened there?
I played Torrey Pines yesterday, the South Course. I was dressed to the nines. I had the long pants on. I had the complete Adam Scott outfit, okay? Uniqlo.
I was going to say, maybe you're like a Ricky Fowler guy.
No.
No?
Adam Scott. And I had, logo, no logo on my hat, and the FootJoy, no spikes, the whole 9 yards, okay? And I started well. I parred number 1, bogey number 2. I was going good. And then the wheels fell off. It's a tough course.
Oh, yeah.
So I ended up 96, 95. So, well, big deal.
I would take it.
So anyway, any questions, guys?
South Sports there at Torrey Pines and stuff. Yeah, Jake, we were going to get into maybe some topics about this, all the COVID stuff going on, and then your thoughts on some other things. What have you noticed, or what are your opinions on sports starting back up with COVID going on?
Well, first of all, and I'll make a rare exception, I don't say the word COVID. Okay? Because I am not giving it any more power than it already has. I am sick and fucking tired.
I bet.
Okay?
Good for you.
If I do speak about it, I use the number 19. That's it. Okay?
Formal.
And I realize the seriousness of it. Okay? I'm not downplaying the seriousness of it. It is very serious. Okay? However, I think it's over the top, the way we are saturated with nothing but 19 news. Okay? It's time to move into 2020, 2021. Let's move forward. Okay? This world has overcome many obstacles, and we will face many more obstacles. And this is not the end of the world. And if it is, well, so be it.
If we had you running either of our countries, things would be going much better.
Pardon me?
If we had you running either of the two countries that we come from here, this
Absolutely.
much better.
No doubt in my mind.
Wise words. Yeah, I mean, I agree. We can overcome it. We can, can do what we can, and there's only certain things we can control, right?
Yeah. And life goes on. What I tell people is that I am going to live my life. I'm not going to be dead while I'm alive.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
And that's not being disrespectful. However, I am.
Do you think it's necessary to be doing testing? And I'm sure when every sport pops back up, there will be testing of this and testing of that. Do you think it's necessary, or what are your thoughts? I mean,
well, I think, first of all, I am not an expert on the disease. Okay. However, I did listen to an expert the other day on 31 Thoughts. They had if you guys listen, I don't know if you guys listen to 31 Thoughts. Friedman and Jeff Merrick, they do a very good job. They had a guy on, his name was Zach, okay? And he is an expert on the disease, okay? And of all the people that I've heard talk about 19, he is the one that has made absolutely the most sense, okay? Not fear-mongering, being practical, explaining how it works, and what needs to take place. Okay, so if you guys want to know what I think about it, listen to his podcast. Okay, I think it was very, very well done, and I can see the problems with crowds. I don't see any problems with the bubble and that kind of stuff. I do think that it's a lot of money to spend on testing. However, that's my idea, which, again, I don't have all the information. As far as hockey goes, I would have canceled the season.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, why? Why go through all this? Like,
right.
And this is going to carry forward for the next 3 years, because they're probably won't start till January. So
Right.
then we go, we go on and on and on. Let's make this safe. When it's safe, let's come back.
Right.
So what's your thoughts on like a sport like golf where there's not much contact?
Oh, go for it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Why not? There's no.
Yeah, I was afraid when last week when they came out with Nick Watney having his case of it, I was like, oh man, please don't just shut down the whole tournament.
No. They won't do that.
So they did a really good job dealing with it, and like Cam Champ had tested positive, I think today. It's great too. I was worried. It's good to know that they're not shutting it down.
Oh no, and you can't shut because you have to be progressive, okay? And they're taking the steps with no fans, okay? Now, and the doctor Zach, he made a good point. He goes, I've been to hockey games, and I've been drunk, and I've had my favorite guy score a goal, and I've looked around for people to hug and cheer, okay? And that's just not gonna. That just doesn't make any sense to have fans. Even if you have social distancing and you have 5,000 people in a 15,000 seat arena, it's still not going to work. I don't think. How he explained it. Okay, so I don't know. And the thing is, he says no fans in hockey until there is a vaccine. However, vaccine is how many years down the road? Who knows?
If there is one.
Oh, they'll find one.
Yeah, well, I'm with you. I think we've spoken a lot about COVID. I think we got to talk about some brighter things. So before we get back to the hockey, we got a lot of questions there. People have sent me recently. Since I asked who sent, I've got a couple more questions sent. But let's talk about last week at the RBC Heritage. Reid, you guys were in first place after round one. I know things didn't go as well the rest of the way, but I mean, still a pretty good week.
Yeah, I mean, obviously coming off round one, we hit an okay round one. I wouldn't say we probably had our C plus or B minus game, but
putted brilliantly.
4.5 strokes gained putting.
That was the best I've ever seen him putt in any single round of golf. We had 21 putts, and it was one round of golf. And it was one of those days where, we stepped up and we talked about the line real quick, saw the line, or if he didn't, if he felt himself, he wouldn't come to me and ask, and he saw his putt and rolled it, and it was one of those days where the whole hole seemed like a bucket.
Is it less frustrating? Is it less frustrating to do like worse in the next 3 rounds when you really had such an amazing putting round? Because I feel like putting is much less consistent. Like if you were just striping it the first round and hit everything to 2 feet and then like blew up round 2.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say, we got a lot out of our round on Thursday rather. We left some out there on Friday and maybe didn't hit some of our best golf shots, and maybe some things happened, but that's golf at the end of the day. At the end of the week, you take the positives that you're able to get up there and get back to the lead as we were, right there in Houston, and I think we've been nipping at the bud recently, and our time's coming. It's just him and I were talking about it today at the end of last week. It's kind of, we just got to keep going. We're doing the right things. Like it'll come, and we're making enough birdies. A couple doubles last week and whatnot. But there's a lot of good coming, and we're working hard and being efficient in what we do, so we can get enough rest to keep going. As we're going to play probably the first 6 weeks, with this being the third one, and on to Detroit and then Columbus for 2 weeks.
Is it tough to play in a tournament where there's so many guys shooting low scores like that? I mean,
yeah, but honestly, it came with the territory. With it being,
it wasn't as windy.
It wasn't as windy. It was later in the year, so everything was down. Rough went down. First cut was down. Everything was down. Everything was very benign. But you know what? You play the hand you're dealt, and that's really what it comes down to. I mean, you step up calculate a golf shot, hit a golf shot however you want, and you walk up and you hit the next one. And you do it again and again until the last putt's hold. And whatever you've done, you can do, man. I mean, the conditions are you can't control that. You can't control the wind. You can't control the rain. You can't control that we had a 2-hour weather delay with one putt on 18 left for the tournament. I mean, that's just part of the game, man. And you got to walk up and just act like, you know, it's just a brand new shot and a brand new moment every time.
Yeah. Golf's also been, especially with this return, things have been like crazy. Like some guys who've just, well, I mean, Webb missed the cut last week, and then he goes out and shoots, 22 under, 21 under to win this week.
Right.
Sung Jae, who was like on fire, misses the cut.
Yeah.
Morikawa almost missed the cut. That guy, I'm telling you, he's going to make like 600 straight cuts for his career and just never miss and then retire on top.
Right.
Oh,
yeah, and you know what? I think, Jake, so going back a little in time, when I was trying to play, Jake and I did some work on the mental game side of things. And I there are still things that I go back to now on the golf course, even being a caddy, that him and I talked about and discussed and worked on. And it's crazy, man. Like, even the whole game is so mental. You just have to kind of stay up with it and stay in the moment and stay present, you know. And I think that becomes a big thing. And if you're able to do that, then your expectations aren't as high. I don't mean that like you don't expect to play well, but you don't put as much stress on each golf shot.
Yeah, you don't get pissed after one bad round or one bad week. Like,
Right.
literally every single golfer now has had, like, one bad week. I mean, Matsuyama missed the cut. That guy, like, also.
Right.
If he
Jake,
can,
what do you think? How big of a role do you think the mental game plays in a player's career, if you will,
In hockey?
in golf, or
In golf?
in any sport, for rather?
Yeah, okay. I would think that it's after a certain level of talent, okay? Let's say the talent level is the same, then the mental game is at least 90%.
Right.
At least 90%, because there is so many things that can go wrong in between your ears.
Right.
That, like, it's just, you know, like, it's just, and it was the same in hockey, okay? Like, Brad Richards was mentally tough, okay? And he ended up being our Conn Smythe Trophy winner, okay? And Brad wasn't the most talented guy or the toughest guy or the, you know, whatever, but he was mentally tough. Like, he could bounce back, you know? And so I think mental toughness, because it's so hard. And even though a lot of the guys from, you know, I listen to a few other podcasts, okay? And it seems to me like most every player these days has some sort of a mental coach, maybe more than one, okay? And you know, they're into meditation, and then they're into, so the competition for being mentally tough is increasing.
Right.
Okay? Like, I know Jack and Ben Hogan and those guys, they were mentally tough, but the rest of the field, they weren't as tough mentally.
Right.
I think there's way more mentally tough guys now than there's ever been.
Question: Do you think that it's possible to ever reach like a point of being, or do you think you're always working on something more on the mental side of any game?
Yeah.
Like, there's really no end to it.
There is no end.
It can always be better.
Yeah. And I think, and I'm no Tiger expert, but I think Tiger found that out. Okay.
No one's a Tiger expert.
So
when the shit hit the fan, he realized there was more to the game than what he had been doing. Okay.
Yeah.
And you have to give him full marks for coming back. I didn't think he could do. I thought I didn't even think about the physical part of his game, because he's proven that he can take that to whatever level he wants. You know, like, he works hard, but he did the work. He did the mental work to come back. And there has been, I don't think there's been a tougher situation in pro sports or in the world that Tiger recovered from.
Amen to that.
You know, he's just like, it's amazing when you put yourself in his shoes for just a second, even a split second, and to have all that pressure of being the best player in the world, okay, and then to have a royal screw up, and then to fight back, like that is huge. That is huge.
Yeah, he had his.
People don't realize how tough it is.
No, you have no idea.
Personal life torn down and his professional golf game torn down at the same
And
time.
his body.
And his body, yep.
And his body was a complete wreck. You know, like, I mean, that's a lot. That is a lot. So if we miss a 3-footer, it's not quite the end of the world, is it?
So I got a question for you, Jake. How do you quantify, or how do you scout for like mental toughness? I know, like, I've watched Miracle on Ice where Herb Brooks hands out all his surveys to his hockey players to figure out how they're going to work together or figure out what they got going on between the ears or something. How do you scout for that?
I did the same thing. I used the same thing in juniors, okay? And even in the National Hockey League, we did some of that as well. And after a while, if your grandmother sees enough games, she can tell you who the best player is on the ice, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't take a genius, okay? Where it really comes in is you have to do the background on how mentally tough are guys. Okay, what kind of people are they? Are they willing to work for it? And sometimes you make mistakes. Okay, you do the interviews, you talk to the people, and sometimes you make mistakes, or they don't keep improving on the same line. They can't handle the pressure. Okay, they might be the big fish in the little pond when they're on the farm team or when they're in juniors. And then when they get to National Hockey League training camp, then almost everybody's sort of at the same level. And then they don't know how to deal with it, you know? And that's something that you just kind of have to guess at, okay, how they're going to be able to, you interview them and you talk to them and you ask key questions. And then, but, you know, when the rubber hits the road, you don't really find out until you get them to training camp and get them in with the rest of the guys and stuff, you know.
I gotta ask you this question on that matter. How the hell was Martin St. Louis, the man who helped you win a Stanley Cup, not drafted in the first place?
Well, because in those days, Marty was way too short. Okay, like there was only a few players, like maybe Cormier. I don't even know if
he wasn't that short.
Pardon me?
He wasn't as short as St. Louis.
No. And so there just wasn't short players. Okay, so it was very easy for people to just say, and I didn't see Marty play as a junior, and I had absolutely nothing to do with getting him to Tampa. The credit totally belongs to Rick Dudley. He saw something. Rick Dudley probably has the most amazing eye for talent in the National Hockey League. He's an incredible scout. And he went to bat for Marty, okay? And he found a way to get him to Tampa, and then he found a way to get him to play, okay? Talking to the coaches and doing whatever, okay? And so it, you know, and I think Marty, you couldn't scout how determined he was going to be. Okay, like he was good and he was determined and whatever, but was he like he really worked on his body, okay? And he had to do a lot of mental work, okay? Because he would get flustered. And I remember Brad coming out of the locker room one day, and he goes, "Jake, you got to talk to Marty." He's just completely losing it. And so, so we had a little chat and whatever. And however, he worked on those kinds of things. Okay, like I mean, his thighs, his calves, like I mean, they are huge. They're humongous. The
Like
biggest
Phil Mickelson calves.
Huh?
Reed, they make you look terrible.
Jake knows my calves.
Who has better calves, Reed or Marty St. Louis?
Marty is a tremendous. Well, you guys saw him play probably, and Marty's just an
Absolutely.
amazing athlete.
He's the rare player that Montreal Canadiens fans liked who wasn't on the Canadiens.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was just universally loved by all Habs fans.
Yeah. Okay. What about Vinny?
Vinny was too. At one point, everyone wanted him to come to Montreal, but not like St. Louis. Like
No.
especially like in my family, my brother was also very short, like playing competitive hockey. Idolized St. Louis growing up.
Yeah.
St. Louis he always was able to deke and dive and duck, man. He was so good in the holes.
Well, he paved the way for little guys.
Yeah.
Jake,
two-part question. Who was the best player you ever drafted? Best player at the end of their career that you were ever responsible for scouting? And second, what NHL player are you closest with?
Closest with?
Can I add a third question? Who's a player who you looked at and didn't draft and turned out to be really good?
Oh yeah, I was thinking about that today. I've made a lot of $1 million mistakes.
Those are easy.
I'm not afraid to admit that. The best player drafted. Okay, in junior, I could take responsibility for Ken Danico. Okay, because it was a dispersal draft. The Spokane Chiefs folded, and I was in charge of scouting, and nobody else had seen these players. And I was hoping, and even though I didn't know that much about Danico, I was just hoping. We picked third, and I was just hoping. I had my fingers crossed that he would be there, and he was there. And he turned into a very, very solid player for us. And then he had a great, great career as a defenseman for the Devils. He won a cup, I think. And so he was the number one guy. Now, as far as scouting in the National Hockey League, if people take credit for finding someone, most likely they're bullshitting a little bit. Because the thing is, you have a staff of 20 people. Okay, by the time you get the coach, or not the coach, but the general manager and the director of player personnel and all those people involved. So it goes around and around and around on the table. And that allows, okay, so let's say the buck stopped with me, okay, because I was the head scout, okay, all right. But I had so much feedback from other people that it wasn't me. Now, the people, or the two people that come to mind that I battled hard for, and that were, evident by the round they were picked. One was Brad Richards. Okay, I fought hard for Brad, and we got him in the third round, and he ended up being a Conn Smythe Trophy winner. Okay, so that's pretty good. And the second guy was Paul Ranger, and he was just he was a sixth rounder, and he went on, and I don't know exactly what happened after I left Tampa. He had some issues, but he carved a nice little career out for himself. Okay, he was a smooth skating guy and whatever. So as far as Zach's question, I think the biggest mistake I made, and you have to have a little bit of background into the thinking that went into it. We were a team that weren't very hard to play against. And Jay Feaster liked a tough team. Okay, he wanted players that cared and that hit. And we had absolutely nobody in front of the net to be able to clear out anybody in front of the net. And in those days, you could still clear people out in front of the net. Okay, we just weren't that tough. And so we were looking for tough players. So one draft, we took Mike Egner and Matt Schmaby, and they were both tough bastards, okay? They could play hard, okay? And Mike had a lot of talent too. He ran into some injuries, and whatever. And Matt, his foot speed just wasn't quite good enough, I don't think, in the end. Both good kids, good. They wanted to be players and everything, and they worked hard. And however, the guy that I passed over and didn't go till like the 5th or 6th round is the captain of the Canadiens.
Really?
Yeah.
Booth?
No, Weber.
Oh, that's so
Jay
recently. Jeez, that's rough. That's rough. That's a rough
So
one.
that's hard to take, and it wasn't like I didn't know about Shea Weber. He played in Kamloops, and I saw Kamloops play a lot. And I did the player interviews. I went and interviewed the top guys in person. I drove to Shuswap to Sicamous, and I remember the meeting. I met with his parents and with Shea at the dock, and we had a nice lunch and whatever. And Shea was a good guy, and however, he did not fit what we were looking for. Okay. And I thought, okay, if I bring a guy like that in, and Shea has changed his game, I think. I'm not an expert on how Shea Weber plays.
But I was gonna say, Shea's like one of the toughest guys in the league. Was he?
I know, but he didn't start out that way,
Right.
And I thought, oh shit, if I've got to defend him with Tortorella and Feaster, my ass is grass, And I believed in these other two guys. Okay, so I put my neck on the line, and that's what happens. Okay. So anyway, a little side story. I'm walking out at the draft in between rounds or something, and I bump into Mrs. Weber, and she gives me a dirty look, and she goes, "Finally, somebody sees something in my son."
Wow.
And I go, yep. So anyway, that's how it goes. Now, we made other mistakes, and for different reasons, but that's the one that if I could do it over, that would be a do-over. But just putting, you don't do them over.
How much say or how much input did you have on Vinny?
Oh, zero. Well, no, it was automatic. There was just
no brainer.
We never even really discussed that.
Right.
No, he was just.
How easy was he to be around?
Oh, Vinny's good. Vinny's a good guy. He, it was tough. Maybe we handled things like the owner was Art. He was an insurance salesman, done made it good, and he went up to the podium and he called Vinny the Michael Jordan of the National Hockey League. Well, that's a little bit hard to live up to. Okay.
Yeah.
And Jacques came in, and I think it was Jacques that made him captain. And that's a tough job for an 18-year-old or however old Vinny was. And then Torts came in, and Vinny wasn't, Vinny and Torts weren't the best of buds at the start. And, Vinny lost the C, Torts yanked the C. And, they met in the middle, and we won a cup. So it was, Torts got a lot out of Vinny. Vinny had some things to learn, just like everybody else does.
Right.
He was in a position where he had never had to be pushed,
Right.
And in order to win, in order to win, like just like on the PGA Tour, you got to go through your valleys, in order to get out on top. And then it's, and that's what
every valley has learning curves that you learn and get better from.
Yeah. And Vinny was just like that series against Montreal. Like we won 4 straight, and he was just a wrecking ball. He had talent. It just brought the best out of him. It was incredible.
Zach and Nolan, and we'll save this for another time, later date. But Jake has stories with him and Tortorella that get me absolutely rolling on the floor. We've had rounds of golf or whatever where he'll start talking about Tortorella. I just start rolling, laughing. I love it.
That's one of my questions I got from one of our followers. He wanted to ask what your relationship is with Torts. So I guess that leads into it.
Well, you know what, Torts and I, we got along. I knew when to shut up. Okay, because Torts is a fiery guy. And what I learned from winning the cup, how we operated that year, inside our ring is good is the enemy of great, and safe is death. Okay? And the unwritten one was pay attention to detail. And we had our disagreements, and we had really, really deep discussions, okay? Garbage can kicking discussions. And however, as soon as everybody was welcome to speak their mind, okay? And at the end, when a discussion or after we had a meeting or after a game or something and we'd done the thrashing, we respected everybody's job, okay? And we fell in line, okay? There was no backbiting, okay? Jay Feaster, John Tortorella, Ramsey, Reese, the trainers, everybody was in line, okay? We've got the shit cleared out. Now we've got one goal, and we're marching forward. And that was huge. That was huge. And Torts was a big part of that. Torts doesn't fool around. He wears his heart on his sleeve, and he just so yeah. In order for me to get into some of those stories, it's a long story. But no, and Torts and I have a lot of respect for Torts, and we're not on the phone all the time. I haven't talked to Torts for probably 4 or 5 years, okay? And however, that doesn't really change anything. If we met somewhere in the street, we'd have a really, really good conversation.
Who's the best coach you ever worked under, Jake?
Well, I would have to say Torts.
Tortorella,
yeah.
That's where I was kind of going.
And you know what? We had other coaches and stuff, but like the first name that joined, and he was there the longest, and he achieved the most, and he was just, and he was one of those guys that, I've heard what kind of player he was, and he wasn't.
Right.
Okay. So I don't know. I didn't see him play, so I can't testify to that. But I just heard that he wasn't that good. He had to work. He had to scrap for every inch of ice time, and he wasn't even a fighter. Like, he was just a bulldog.
All right. I got a couple more questions for you here.
Okay.
A few people. We got. I don't know if you have the insight here. You might. Could you talk about what happened with Dave Anderchuk the couple seasons that followed?
As far as what?
As far as, I don't know, after he won the cup, did anything happen with Dave Anderchuk? That was the question.
No, I really have. I know he's got the statue in front, I think, and he's very involved in the community. And but other than that, I have nothing. I don't know anything about Dave. I played golf with Dave, and of course we were together that year. But then the next year we had the lockout, and then I don't think Dave came back after that. So I didn't get to know him that well. He wasn't there that long. So no, I have no idea what the question is pertaining to.
Okay. We had some other questions, but they were all basically asked about who your best draft pick was and whatnot. We got a couple golf questions here. We could all chime in. What does everyone think on the state of Jordan Spieth?
Wow.
The state of Jordan Spieth?
Yeah.
As it pertaining to what? The way he's playing?
Yeah,
what?
that he's seems to have turned things around a little bit.
Has he?
Yeah, I mean, the guy's talented. I mean, he's gonna be good, whether it takes him a month to fix things or a year to round things. Like, it's gonna happen, man. Like, he's proven that he's good. There's probably some things that he's working on that maybe have gotten better over time, and that's golf, man. It's a game of golf.
Yeah, and then the last question we got, which I think is a great question, one of the best we've had, is is there a right fitness approach for golf? Because if you look at Bryson and you look at Webb Simpson, who just won this week, you couldn't have two more complete opposites in terms of their fitness approach.
Well, if you're going to talk fitness, ask Mr. Yoga, who teaches yoga around the world, Jake Gertzen.
Well, I think it. Again, I think it depends on the individual, on the mental state of the individual. Okay, obviously Webb Simpson. I don't even know Webb Simpson. I have no idea. But you're calling him the opposite of Bryson. Okay, so obviously
he's not in bad shape. He's just not. He's not.
Yeah. So obviously it's not a priority for Webb. Okay.
Exactly.
And Bryson is experimenting. Okay. And all the more power to him. I personally, I don't know why he's doing it. It's going to be really hard on his body.
Like a lot of effort too.
Yeah, like to do what,
You could be eating snacks.
20 yards further.
Yeah, to get 10 yards. So I don't know, but you know what? Everybody has their own reasons. So getting back to Spieth for a second, I'm a big Spieth fan. I think he's a really, really good guy. Maybe he's too good a guy. But I think he's kind of like Vinny. He's kind of he came to stardom, and then all of a sudden things turned a little bit sideways. He hasn't won for 3 years, so that's a long stretch. But I think he certainly hasn't quit, and he shows that. Okay, you rattle off, what do you have, 9 birdies in a row or something?
8,
Yeah.
I think.
8, whatever. No feeble-minded person does that.
Right.
Triple bogeys the first or the second, and then somehow has 8 birdies in a row in the same round.
So he's good. I think that the number one I think as far as fitness in golf, I think every single player could benefit from yoga. Okay.
I agree. Flexibility, I think, is obviously.
And I think that if Tiger would have started doing yoga a long time ago, he wouldn't have had to have all these surgeries and stuff. So it's I don't know. But anyway, and it's not, Hank Haney, I listened to his podcast a couple of times, and one day he said, you know what? Tiger needs yoga. Simple as that. Tiger needs yoga because it is a complete mind and body workout. Okay, when you do Bikram hot yoga, I went today. I haven't been in a hot room for almost 3 months, and it just kicked my ass. Okay, but you walk out of there and you're one with the universe, and you've loosened up every muscle, every organ in your body. So it's a complete mind-body workout. And what do golfers need? They need a complete mind-body workout. You need to get out of your head. Okay. And we have a lot of successful people, business people, athletes, whatever, that come to our classes. And for a while, I had an NFL guy, retired NFL guy, come in, and he goes, man, if I'd have known about this while I was playing, like, I mean, he just couldn't get enough of it, you know. And Jeff Reese, the goaltending coach, and he was a good goaltender in his own right. And Corey Schwab, who, by the way, you Reed, you should get Corey on.
I should. I was thinking about that. Schwabi's awesome.
Corey is one of the brightest minds in hockey. He doesn't get all the credit.
Unbelievable.
He's unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
And so, but both him and Reeser, they started doing the yoga, and they go like, man, if they'd been doing that when they were playing, they would, you know, it would have just been so much better for them. So
Right.
I don't know. I know there's some guys that are on the tour, I think, that are doing some yoga. It's hard to fit it in with the schedule and stuff. It's the same. It's hard for hockey players. Okay, like during the season, it's almost impossible for them to have a routine to go and do 90 minutes of Bikram yoga, you know, like 3 times a week. It doesn't work, you know.
Right. What one final last thought on yoga, Jake? How many countries have you taught yoga in?
I've taught at over 150 studios. No, I've practiced at over 150 studios, and I've taught at over 35 or 40.
Regular Zen master, man.
Pardon me?
Zen master.
Yeah. So anyway, I started the Bikram when it wasn't fashionable. For the first 5-6 years, I didn't tell anybody in hockey that I was doing yoga. And but anyway, yeah, it's the best thing that you can do for your mind and your body. Yeah, absolutely.
Have you seen any of the goat yoga that's been?
No, I haven't. I'm not really a yoga teacher. I teach Bikram yoga, and there's a big difference because I don't understand all the, you know, the chakras and the yin and the yang and all the flowery stuff. I just go, I've got the real stuff down, and I can be. I'm a tough teacher. I call people out, and I had a CEO of a company in San Diego, Fortune 500 company, and he was a bit of a brat, and he wasn't listening, and he was pouring water over his head, and he was doing shit things, and I gave him quite a few warnings, and he wasn't responding. So finally one day I let him have it, and he yipped back. Nobody yips back to the yoga teacher, okay, but he did. He yipped back at me in the classroom. And I said, okay, I'll let him yip. And I knew he was going to come at me after class. So I went and I stood at the front of the counter, and he came up to me and he kind of poked like this, and he goes, I don't come here. I'm the CEO of a Fortune 500 company, and I don't come here to take that kind of bullshit from you.
Who cares? Once you step into the yoga studio, you're all students under.
But that's the lesson he had to learn. So I said, really? So he kept going on. He unloaded. I said, okay, good. Then he went and sat down. And then I gave him full marks. He had the balls to get up, come up, and to shake my hand. And then he left. He turned on his heels and he left. He is one of my better students now.
Really?
One of my better students. He came around. He completely did a 360, 180 or whatever, 360, whatever you want to call it. And one day we were in class, and I said, okay, now people have a tendency to hide in the back row. And I picked 3 guys. I said, okay, guys, next Sunday, I always teach Sunday. Next Sunday, I want all 3 of you guys in the front row. So 2 of the guys showed up in the front row. Okay, it's a little bit touchier up there. Okay, you're leading by example, and you're almost in your own eyeballs. And Mr. CEO, he was in the second row. And so I go, hey guys, good job moving into the front row. And Tony, congratulations, you got to vice president. And of course, he had nobody else had any idea of the exchange of the CEO. But anyway, but no, he's really good now. Like he tells me every time how much he's learned and how much, and his practice has improved. Like he's a different person. He's not angry. He's nothing anymore. He shows up. Like yesterday, he was in the front row and he was there and he was working, and he's a total day and night difference. I take on some tough cases that nobody else wants to take. It's hard. You have to have a long range vision in order to take on those kind of projects.
I'm gonna have to come for my road to the mini tour. It'll be like my training.
Yes.
Getting
Absolutely.
through one.
I'll get you in. I'll get you in shape.
That's right.
Jake will get you bending backwards, touching the back of your part of your heels.
You might be disappointed though with my performance in the actual golf event, though.
No. I'm never. If people are working, I'm never disappointed. Never.
Okay, good. Yeah, you can't be results oriented there.
No,
I'm aiming for last.
Okay. There you go.
All right. Well, it was great having you on, Jake. We really appreciate you joining us. Hopefully, we'll have you on again soon. I know we have a ton of big hockey fans who listen, especially with me out in Montreal. We're all huge hockey fans, so.
And there's a lot of good hockey players. I made a couple of notes. I used to go on the Holland tour. Kenny Holland, he's the GM of the Oilers.
Yeah.
I've known Kenny for a long time, and he used to scout for the Red Wings. And him and Bruce Harrelson would come through, and they'd be scouting, and they'd have their clubs with him. And I wanted to play with them. And they go, no, you're not good enough. You have to qualify. So, and I didn't qualify just on the first round. Like I went to Tri-Cities. What's the name of that course there? Reed, do you know the name of the course? Tri-Cities. It's a nice course. It's a desert course.
Canyon Lakes?
No, not that one. Not far from there. The next podcast will have it. Anyway, they made me that was a tough course. So I had to play 2 or 3 rounds before I qualified to even just play with them. Okay. So I worked my way up. I got onto the Holland tour, and the Holland tour played all over Europe, or all over Scotland and Ireland. Okay. I qualified for that. And we would go, and Kenny Holland is amazing. He is the most amazing organizer that I've ever met in my whole life. And he takes it so personal, and he looks after every detail. We had books printed up with each course we were going to play and how many holes and what the games were going to be and who the partners were going to be and where we were staying. It's just incredible. And some of the guys, Dale Talon, who is a good player, okay? He won the boys Canadian junior or whatever. He played on the Canadian tour. I think he won 2 or 3 times. He qualified for a PGA Tour event, and he was also a second overall pick to the Vancouver Canucks. And now he's the general manager of the Florida Panthers. He's very good. He's a good player, and I think he just qualified for the Senior Open or something. I don't know when.
Oh, really?
Yeah, glanced over.
Wow.
And he can really play. Okay, Doug Armstrong, GM of St. Louis, very, very good player. He was on the tour. Okay. And he's a solid player. And the guy from San Jose, Doug Wilson, very good player. And all these guys, what they all have in common is they are mentally tough.
Right.
They are mentally tough. Like maybe they're not PGA players, but when you get them on the golf course, they compete and they know what it takes, So anyway, we had some really, really good tours. I got to play with Joey Kosher, who can really hit the ball. He's a kind of tough guy for the Red Wings. So that was a lot of fun. And so if you guys are ready to wrap it up, I just have one message for Reed. And I really, really had my heart set on being a caddy on the PGA Tour. and Reid fired me. And he went on to study himself.
If Reid gets
I'm
sick one week,
there's times I still lose sleep at night. You know, like, I mean, I thought I caddied well.
Not only crushed your own dream, Reid, you crushed Jake's dream.
Hey, I mean,
No, we had a good time. We really had a good time.
yeah,
I've never seen anybody hit a 1 iron, or what did you hit? 1 iron? Yeah.
2 iron.
2 iron, 300 and some yards. Oh man, almost on the green. Where was it?
Steroids. That's what I've been saying.
Man, oh man, oh man. So anyway, we've had some laughs over the years and some, peace and love. So anyway.
Thankful for everything you've done, Jake.
Usually I don't do this much talking. Okay, I consider myself a good listener. So next time you guys do the talking, all right?
No, we like the stories, man. That's why we brought you on.
Okay, all right.
Thanks so much, and hope you guys enjoyed.
See you, Zach. See you, Nolan. See you, Reid. Good luck next week.